Zach McNaughton, ready to talk about his program.
Hi, I'm Zach McNaughton. This is the audio video production. Some of you have heard this spiel before, some of you probably your first time. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about what makes the program format unique, and then we'll do a quick tour of the studios, and then we can come back in here for questions. So AVP also and digital media production, which is our online version of the program. One of the things that makes us really unique, probably in the whole state of Vermont, but especially at RVTC, is our program is completely modularized. And so what that means is I have up here our online class portal, and you can see a bunch of these, what we call pathways. I know it might be a little bit small, but essentially what we do is we take every quarter, we package these. The quarter is basically 8 to 10 weeks long, depending on vacations, which quarter it is. So we create different, we call them pathways, but they're different courses that align to different career areas or elements within a career area. And so when students come into AVP at the beginning, the first quarter we're all together. We call it AVP 101. We go over fundamentals, basics of audio, of video, photography, graphics, some of the software we use. And after they've done that foundational course, we give them basically a map of some of these pathways that are prerequisites to other ones. So we give them kind of a flow chart. And at the start of each quarter, students individually pick what they want to study and learn that quarter. And then they move through the program basically by designing the course themselves by picking and choosing what pathways they're going to take through the program. So some of these pathways we offer college credit for. So that AVP 101, it's aligned with CCV's multimedia applications and tools. So all the students are eligible to earn 3 college credits through CCV for that pathway. And then students who choose digital photography, we offer an additional 3 college credits for digital photography. But basically, this all kind of stemmed out of years ago, we were having really high attrition rates in the program. And we were trying to identify what would be the best way that we could keep students engaged. Because back then, level 1 of the program was audio engineering, level 2 was video production. What we learned really quickly was that the audio student and the video student were often different human beings. So we were losing the visual media students during the first year, and then we were losing the audio students during the second year. So we came up with this. This was actually part of a grant that I helped write way back in 2008. We came up with this model, and really since then, our attrition rates have been quite low. And when it comes to attrition rates based on not interested in the curriculum, it's near 0. So this has really solved that issue for us. And the students like having more choice in their program. So it works well. We even have pathways for students. We have some advanced pathways. The students have consistently demonstrated 95 or better for multiple quarters. We let them do what we call a build your own pathway. And essentially give them curriculum design tools. They have to build a 10-week curriculum. And once that's approved, they get to take enroll in that curriculum themselves. So some of these pathways have actually come out of that process. We have a new pixel art and animation pathway that's came out of it. We had a couple students interested in it. They helped develop the curriculum, and then I went through and brought it up to a level that I could offer it to everyone, and then we packaged it this way. So, and then right now I have a bunch of students doing 3D design using Blender that most likely will end up into an additional pathway. So we try to add about a pathway or 2 per year so that over the years, the list gets bigger and bigger and bigger and encompasses more emerging technologies as well as, some of the old school stuff that have sort of come back and have become popular again. So that's the format. And so with that, we'll do a quick tour and then we'll see what we have for time beyond that. So the room we're in right now, this is the AVP Theater. We use it for presentations. We start every class day because the students are in all these different curriculum areas. They're not necessarily doing the same thing at the same time. We start in here, kind of like a staff meeting, figure out where everybody's at in their curriculum, and then we break out and they work in their individual pathways. So, and then we also use this, we have media days where we do critiques and We'll watch films and things like that, and that will happen in here too. So as we move to the back of this room, this part's powered off, but this is our broadcast production control station. So there's a bunch of cameras in the other room. You'll see our set in just a second. It's all wired into here so that students who want to do their own talk shows or other types of video podcasting, we can do that with this system. So come in here and you'll see the other side of it. So here's the set itself. When we built the set, we wanted to find the cheapest way to make a set that could be swapped out instantly for different shows. So we did Cyber Tuesday sales and got a bunch of cheap TVs, and we worked with Raleigh to build stands for them. And so the TVs are all remote control from a computer. So we can swap these graphics out instantly and change out the whole array, color scheme of whatever the scales that we're producing. So that's the broadcast set. We have the green screen, which was a collaboration with Carpentry. It's in need of some repairs, but we'll get to that. But this is for students doing special effects pathways and also our corporate video pathways. Sometimes we use that as well. And then this space is really the most popular pathways in the program right now are photography related pathways. And so this room, students come in and they set up lights and for different portrait seats and things like that. So this is sort of our flex room. So as we move through here, we're going to go into the smaller studios. This is Studio A. This was we've been very fortunate. This console has survived as long as it has. We purchased this during that grant I talked about back in 2008, and it's still been running with only some minor repairs. But this studio we use for radio production, students who are in any of the music production labs, session recording, and as well as any types of voiceover and other type of work that they're doing with audio that needs more inputs than some of the smaller setups they have at their desks. And as we move forward, I know it's a little dark for those online here. Got the red light on. This is the podcast studio. Podcasting has become super popular over the past few years. And sometimes students are fighting over this room, but we went with this board's pretty neat. It can allow us to have remote callers call into it from anywhere. And they don't need any special technology or software on their end. And it also has the sound pads for having your pre-recorded audio that you can, hit and queue up anytime. Crickets for the bad jokes or whatever.
So what work product, use this as an example, comes out of this, and where is it?
Yeah, so some of my students have their podcasts on Spotify. So basically, in the first couple weeks of the 8 weeks, they have to design the podcast. So they go through, they choose their themes. They have to set up channel artwork and a bunch of things like that and do their initial outlines. Once they've done their outlines, the students come in and produce content on a regular basis for the whole quarter. So the first part is really like the setup, the design, learning the technology, and then after that, it's focused on performance and editing. But
is any of that branded RVTC? Can I search right now on Spotify?
We usually try to get them not to brand it RVTC.
Fair enough.
And then we actually have a setup where they can get approval, and then we'll publish it with our name. I'd have to look up some of the show titles. But yeah, if you knew the students, you could.
Yeah, I understand.
You could sign up for it, and we sometimes publish it on our Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the podcasting room. Then we move into here. I had this light on, but dim. So this used to be a dark room, but this is a sort of a catch-all audio room. We also use it for similar photography where we need to control the light because there's no exterior lighting in this room. So we have our whisper booth, which was donated in memory of a student who passed away several years ago. And this has become very, very much used part of the program. As you can probably hear in here, the AC unit for the entire building is right above this room. It's quite loud for a recording studio. So that space, it drops the sound levels by about 45 decibels, which is a huge difference. So we do any type of voiceover recording or if we have vocalists singing or anything like that, it's always inside that booth now. Out here we have an overflow podcast studio for when that one's double booked. but this one is also set up as a music production studio. When Mr. Gunnell came on as my co-teacher, he comes with a lot more music background experience. So he wrote a couple pathways for digital music production, and the students have access to this area for that. And then out here's also our live sound. We just recently sold our lighting setup to upgrade it. It was quite old. So we'll be purchasing a new system that's much more portable than what we used to have. The old system filled multiple vehicles and took hours to set up. The new system will fit into 2 cases, and there's basically 10 minutes setup time. So, and we use that. We before COVID, we DJ dances, proms all around the region, and then we stopped doing that because of COVID. Now we're revamping that part of the program and looking to relaunch that next year. So that's sort of this space. So with that, we'll head back to the theater and see how much time we have. And a couple minutes.
Zach, are you going to show them the classroom?
Yeah, we can peek in the classroom. I usually skip the classroom because everybody's saying computer lab. If you pop in here. Hi. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool. Go for it. So this is the classroom. We're a Mac room. Yeah, I mean, we have the whole Adobe suite. We use a lot of Apple products. Students have access to a wide range of software. So whether it's for audio engineering, we try to have at least 2 or 3 of the sort of top industry standard software running in there, so that students get a wide range of training. It's kind of all over the place out in the industry. So, so with that, I guess we have time for questions. If anybody has-
You haven't really talked about the banners.
Yeah, I didn't talk about the banners. So CTSO, my students are involved with Skills USA as well as FBLA. I haven't hung the FBLA banners yet, but as you can see, we've done quite well at Skills USA. It's getting to a point where it makes me a little nervous. We've won every year since 2015. So eventually it'll be that year, but we'll see. Our students are actually heading off tomorrow to compete at FBLA for a public service announcement. And then in April, we'll be competing in radio production as well as television production. So we'll see how that goes, but we've done quite well nationally as well. So students who went at the state level get to represent Vermont at nationals, up against every state and territory in the US. We've won that once. We've been in the top 10 4 or 5 times. So we've done pretty well at national. And FBLA, we've more recently started doing that. We haven't gone to many national events for FBLA, just because the cost of doing flows is quite astronomical. A trip to nationals, in case you don't know, for a team of 2 students with instructors, somewhere around $5,500 to $6,000. And then usually FBLA is even further away. So last year it was in California. So that's even more expensive. But we'll see how things go at the competitions, and we'll make decisions based on that. And yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
What kind of community involvements or co-op programs are available for your students currently?
Yes, so we have students who are working at the public access stations. In fact, over in Okemo, I think it's like 70% of them are alumni of mine. But we also send students over there for internships. We have students interning right now at SAPA. We've done stuff with some other smaller businesses, and then we do a lot of work where people from the community come to us and ask to help with the project, which doesn't quite count as a co-op, but we've done stuff for the highway department, for the housing authority, all kinds of different organizations. We try to keep that work to mostly nonprofits because they're the ones who need it the most. And, maybe not have the budget for going out and hiring a large firm to do that. But we take on to private projects as well. We've had musicians come in and work with students to produce their own indie albums and that sort of stuff. So when people reach out, we try to accommodate as much as we can. On the flip side, it can be hard because the curriculum is so lockstep with the way it is that if it's a larger project, we really have to figure out how does this really fit into what we're doing when it's happening. So, but yeah, we do take on projects, and if people have projects in mind, reach out to us. We use those projects actually to pay for going to these national trips. So when usually the students are out seeking those types of projects right after they've won a state level event, because then they know they need to come up with money fast.
Maybe just lastly, alumni. You've got folks that have done very well.
Yeah, we have several students who've done very well. We have students working in corporate video. We have students at TV stations all over. I've got students working in Broadway. I have 2 students right now who are sort of superstars. They're from quite a long time ago, but the Cell Up twins, if you search them up, Asia or Kayla Cell Up, they're they're working on every Marvel movie, Hulu stuff. I mean, their IMDb list is pretty impressive. So, but yeah, we also have a lot of students who end up in area businesses doing things adjacent to what they learned here, but then they end up running the social media for those small businesses, and that's probably like the most common thing that we see happening. So, and then freelancers, students who have a primary job, but they're in the evening, they're doing weddings, they're doing all kinds of stuff. So, yeah. Cool. This is great.
We appreciate it, Zach, as always.
Thank you.
For those online and those here, yeah.
Okay, it is about to be 5 o'clock. Close enough, 5 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Thank Zach McNaughton and the presentation up at the audio video program studio upstairs and the great job they do. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
We do not.
Okay, do we have any public comments? Okay, first item of business is the consent agenda. Would take a motion to accept, please. Jess? And seconded by Des. All right, what do we got in the consent agenda?
So we're currently projecting a deficit of $24,661 for this fiscal year. Enrollment, we popped up a little bit since last meeting. For this year, we're 17 students below where we were this time last year. We've kicked off recruiting. Currently, for FY27, we're about 64 students behind where we were at this time last year. We started a little bit later. We've changed our process up a little bit. Green Mountain is coming on Friday, so we're hopefully going to see a boost there, but we're down 6 from VF, 23 from Green Mountain, 23 from Springfield High School, and as expected with no level 1 from Paul Mountain, we're down 10 from there.
Okay. Any questions about that or anything in the consent agenda? Okay, Kate.
And just when you say we're down from, I'm assuming you mean from last year, and are in your budgeting and in all of your processes, are you factoring in like the decrease in population? Like our schools are getting smaller, and I just wonder how you consider that.
So I can look into those numbers and compare class sizes for you. They are not taken into account right now. It's just at this point last year, and we've adjusted a little bit. So being a little behind is not terribly surprising. I just wanted to keep everyone up to date on where our current recruitment status is.
Totally. And you don't need to do anything for me because this is my last board meeting. I was just curious about the how that factors in, considering all of the hubbub about decreased population. And eventually that's going to have to factor in because it's probably going to, the spread is going to continue.
Well, and that's where, we just got done with the budget process. The 6-semester average comes in too, and that over time will ebb and flow a little bit. Scott, you got a comment?
Yeah, the 6-semester average. So this won't impact our revenues for next year from the state of Vermont, but it is something to keep track of because it'll catch up with us eventually. Also, juniors' deadline for application isn't until March 15th. So there is some time. They were just on vacation. And the timeline for high school guidance counselors doing schedules is quite a bit different than ours. I'm sure Nate could chime in and say, they're not really thinking hard and fast about scheduling, except for tech kids. And maybe the kids aren't thinking about it, just about starting now. So, or even later. So the timeline is a little bit different as far as what we're looking with, need and what they are doing, but it all comes together eventually, and it does come together a little late sometimes.
Yeah. And keep recruiting, and that includes the instructors and everybody here, all of us.
And the other thing I would add is, statistically, the RVTC gets a pretty high percentage of the available population. I think last year we got the highest percentage of the available population. So the decline proportionally statewide is not really playing out as much here because we do capture a larger percentage of the population. Take that one for the road, Kate.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Old business VTVLC, and Ashley will do the action item at the end.
Okay, thanks so much. So we will start off with our financial report. We are continuing to be right on target as to what we expected. With actually sort of a slight increase in our projected surplus, but again, it's always a moving target until we know what will happen at the end. But right now we are right where we need to be. Any questions about that one? Okay. Going on to enrollment. So these numbers have shifted so much in the last month. These were pulled on February 15th. We do have some changes in our programs. One of the things that's most notable to mention is that last year we had about 200 students participating in custom projects, and that has gone down about 50 students, if not more. And those custom projects really fluctuate with what schools need. We actually just had 2 schools reach out to us for custom projects for the spring semester. So again, it's really valuable as we go through. Any questions about enrollment numbers?
Just a guesstimate of if that contract were to come through.
Another 125 kids.
It ebbs and flows.
It does. That it does. I did put in here our mid-year report. If you are familiar with our mid-year reports in the past, you know that they have been very lengthy documents. One of the items that the leadership team worked really hard on this year was to actually break our mid-year report down to be less than 10 pages. We do find that as the average human, once you hit page 60, we stop. And we actually increased the amount of graphics that we put into our mid-year report so that it would be easier for people to take a look at it, to gravitate towards understanding. Right. And we gear them towards our 3 goals that we use with our Flex Pathways grant. If there's any questions about the mid-year report, I'm happy to answer those. I would like to thank Kelsey Christensen. She did put the mid-year report together. She's our data and our digital media. I'm hearing no questions. It was kind of a slow month, but also really interesting month. So our esports season has begun. It's Rocket League for the high school and Mario Kart for the middle school. The students so far are having a really great time. It's awesome if anybody ever wants to pop in and see esports. It's really cool to watch the kids play. We had a virtual event where the 5th and 6th graders went to the Met. We had a group of students who went to the UVM women's basketball game. Our 7th and 8th grade students also did a Met virtual event. We celebrated the 100th day of school, and then of course we had winter break. So that was great. And then the last thing, this is our action item, or not quite our action item, I think it might be. So earlier this year, we asked that our partnership agreement be approved, and we noticed that there was a small shift in language that we need to update from synchronous sessions to asynchronous. And so we are just asking that the language be reviewed.
So this draft language was in your packets. I will read it. It is to me a housekeeping thing, but just make sure folks know what we're approving. So the proposed revised Appendix A would say the VTVLC teacher is an experienced educator who engages students online, helping them build both content knowledge and online learning skills. They modify curriculum to differentiate, increase accessibility, and enrich learning. Responsibilities include assigning and assessing work, connecting with families to share progress and challenges, providing timely and specific feedback, completing individual discussion-based assessments, and ensuring accommodations are applied appropriately. The language that was removed in the responsibilities part was deleting teaching daily synchronous sessions and assessing weekly synchronous sessions. So that's consistent with what Ashley represented, and this is, to me, a cleanup. Any concerns about that before I ask for a motion? Okay. So I'd look for a motion to approve the proposed amendment as I just read to the VTBLC FY27 partnership agreement as submitted.
So moved.
Motion, and Chris seconds it. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Ashley, anything else?
No, that's it.
Any questions for Ashley on any of the stuff she talked about or anything VTBLC-ish? Cool. Thank you as always. Statewide CTE update, Derek.
Big things that are happening in CTE right now is the governance discussion. There's legislative proposals and AOE proposals. The AOE's proposal is to create a service agency who would be picked by the Board of Education, would pick the person who runs it. AOE would be our boss. That's one proposal that we're out there talking about. There's a separate Senate proposal that changes away from that. It's more things kind of stay the way that they are. Is that fair, Bob?
Yeah, so the House Commerce Committee has, it doesn't have, the bill doesn't have a number yet, but that's what Derek spoke about, or creating one Uber CTE district for the state, among other things. So that's the House bill. And the Senate is Bill S313, which is basically keeping the current system-ish and making tweaks and improvements. So let the games begin.
So there's a lot of back and forth. It's tough to keep up on all of that right at the moment, and it's pretty difficult to tell where the chips are going to fall on that. And that's where most folks are focused right now, is kind of trying to figure out where we're going to end up. And everybody's recruiting right now, so it's going to be interesting to see how the new rules around minimum class sizes are going to impact CTE centers across the state, which is a big concern for everybody.
Yeah, so this is obviously intertwined with a bigger discussion about education. And so for the day job, we have representation that is following this, as that's one of our priorities as economic developers. So I share information with Derek, and Derek shares information back. So we're trying to coordinate as best we can. There is a legislative forum that will actually be here, well, not in this room, but in the cafe on Monday at 8 a.m. that folks are invited to. And then the governor is hopefully going to be here possibly the 31st, but we're waiting to get that confirmed. So that would also be in the River Valley Cafe. So any questions about the statewide CTE stuff? It will be, both bills will make crossover, and then there'll be a conference, and we'll see what happens. But a long way to go. All right, union support staff negotiations update.
So we've got 2 dates, the 16th and the 17th from the union. Tina was going to reach out about those. I'm not sure if you've got them yet. This week kind of got turned upside down. So I'll be communicating with you folks to see if we can make those dates work.
Any questions or concerns about that? Okay, policy time. Nate.
Yep. For our third reading, C71, C1, B7, and B8, there are no changes.
Any questions or concerns about any of these before I ask for third reading and adoption? Okay, I would look for a motion to approve the third reading and the adoption of policies C71, possession and administration of emergency medication, C1, education records, B7, tobacco prohibition, And B8, electronic communications between employees and students. Someone make that motion, please. Andrew? And a second from Chris. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing and hearing none, those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. All right, you have more for the second time around.
Yep. So second reading, we have B22 and B7, and there are no changes on those either.
Any questions or concerns about either of these? And again, you'll get them back next month, or if you have something come up. All right, I would look for a motion to approve the second reading and to warn the third reading of policies B22, public complaints about personnel, and D7, special education. Jess and Des. All right, any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. New business, town meeting results.
Our totals from this year's town meeting, excluding Athens, who hasn't reported to us yet, we've got 2,808 yeses, 1,114 noes, 98 blank ballots, and that gives us a current rate without Athens of 71.6%. So a big thank you to all of our supporters in this community. That's really huge for us, and you know, it allows us to continue to do the good work for students that we do every day.
Yeah, and for me, I'm always humbled when I see this and the overwhelming support in our region. And it's because we have such an amazing staff, and you know, students want to be here, and students want to be here because they're learning things that have practical applications and do very well. So that's why we're all on this board. So thank you for supporting us. Thank you for understanding. We tried to be fiscally responsible, and we will try to honor that with another strong year here at RVTC. So thank you to the voters. Any comments, questions from anybody? Okay. Denial of academic credit from sending schools. This, I think, has some explanation.
It's came forward to us that there's potentially some schools who are not following the agreements we've made in the past, and maybe not following board rules around awarding the appropriate credits to students based on the work that they've done. It's really important to students that their work gets recognized. They do a lot of hard work here. The volume of credits that they get that count towards graduation are pretty low. Out of 6 credits, the most any program over 2 years, the most any program has given that are academic and not just extra are 4. Most programs we're talking 1 to 2 credits. So it really impacts students' ability to come, especially as we're looking forward to higher graduation requirements in the future if those credits aren't recognized. So my ask is that I'm allowed to reach out to superintendents, have a conversation, and if we can't get that straightened out, to reach out to the AOE for help in solving this problem and making sure students are awarded credits appropriately.
A couple of comments for me. First of all, this isn't new. It kind of bubbles up from time to time, and then there's a subplot of embedded academic credits within programs and certifications of teachers and stuff. Secondly, it isn't just here. This is happening in other areas of the state, and again, it's kind of bubbling up. So, with all the other moving parts on education, how do we best serve the needs of our students for CTE, and how do we make sure there's a common understanding of what is recognized for credits? So, Chris?
One of the two of you alluded to what sounded like the sending schools argument for that, but could you flesh that out for me? What causes them to deny academic credit if a program is validated for that credit?
My read on the situation and initial conversations are a lot of our schools are struggling with the new class size minimums, and want to retain current staffing in order to provide the classes that they consistently have. So my read is they're making it so that the credits that students earn here with their hard work don't get counted, which will require those students to be sitting in a different teacher's class at their sending school.
Oh,
And I think, when you look at the support we get from our communities, I don't think our communities would support that.
Is this an across the board thing? Are there some schools, some sending schools for whom this is more problematic than others?
There are schools where it's more problematic than others. I really would like to handle it tactfully and, maintain relationships with those sending schools and not call anybody to the carpet in a public forum.
Okay.
I just would like to know that I have the board support before I go have these tough conversations that could potentially involve talking to the AOE around how do we handle it if we can't come to consensus.
mhm.
Derek, I'll weigh
Hang
in a
on,
little
hang
bit.
on. Kate,
Yeah,
Chris, you all set? Okay, Kate?
Thanks. I will just say that seems like the only ethical and responsible thing to do is to address it. It seems as though there are many factors that are impacting our current students. All of the Act 73 stuff, people are forgetting that the current students who are in school, right? Their only 7th grade year, their only 8th grade year is being sabotaged. And so I personally would expect that our sending school would not do that, even if it means class sizes would be smaller. So please, from my perspective, address it. Those students should not be should not bear the burden of us not having a good funding mechanism for schools.
Scott, you had a comment?
Yeah, this reared its head a little bit back when the proficiency stuff came up, and the school's reaction was, oh, we have to teach them so many more new things that we need more time to do that. And a lot of times policy gets set in place without knowing or projecting the chain reaction that will happen, because there's only so much time in a school day, and well-intentioned educators, we want to do more and more and more to help our students without considering all the different experiences that happen. So well-meaning educators at the sending school will say, oh, they really need this or they need that, and it just chews up time. And in a typical 4x4 block schedule, there's only 30 opportunity to earn 32 credits. And when you ramp up the credits to 28, and where tech centers are viewed as an elective, there's really not much time for a kid to access CTE unless either A, they get a pass because it's part of their personal learning plan, or B, there's some level of dual enrollment that, embedded credit that happens. And I think the other thing is, not all the time homeschool high schools are aware of all the statutory implications for them in CTE rules, regulations, and statute. And that's what Derek's going to pursue, is try to build awareness about those things, because the region enjoys us, kids enjoy us, but local barriers to access is nothing new. And people who've been here a while have heard my speech before, that we've got to give kids choice about what they're doing and their future, and choice gets taken away when we try to ramp up what you have to do versus what you get to do.
I think logistically, from building a lot of master schedules and scheduling students, I think it's important to know, like, kind of reiterating, on what Scott said, you have a scenario for core academic credits, and when building schedules, the second, New Hampshire had, where I was, had a 20 credit diploma state minimum. So now that we have a growing graduation requirement, it's going to be even harder. So if our vulnerable students who fail some classes in high school, even just a few, are going to remove themselves if we don't have core content embedded credits, towards graduation, from the opportunity to attend. And I think those are some of our most important students to have coming here for the opportunities that they get. So I think without the core embedded credits, there of students that really value from this experience that would be missing out. So I think the logistics of it can be real impactful, on that side of graduation requirements.
Can you just clarify for me, is this more about discouraging students from participating because of these constraints that sending schools have, or not recognizing the credits after they've taken the courses here at RVTC? Or is it both?
Currently, it's students who are already here will get what was promised previously. Anybody who comes here in the future
Might not.
Might not. Okay,
Might not.
so it's both problems.
Yeah,
So one seems pretty straightforward. The other is more nuanced, right? Because if they've already come, there's already a compact, right? There's already an expectation. So that should, I'm just not doing your argument for you, but there's two pieces to this.
so we did the work Scott talked about, and proficiency wise made agreements with
Yeah.
all of our sending schools, which all look different because they all got to pick their own proficiencies at that point in time. When you go even farther back, the state has these are the credits you get for these areas. So there's stuff on the books that I think people might have forgotten about because some of it's pretty old. One other piece that I want to bring up is we were talking to Erin Davis at the Directors Association meeting a couple of weeks ago. And one piece of data she brought up is CTE is consistently an area where students are making gains while a lot of the rest of the system is struggling. So I think, like Nate said, when you take some of our more vulnerable students who are struggling to engage in education and you take this opportunity away, it's going to ultimately lead to worse results at our sending schools, where I think a partnership really is in the best interest of those students and improving scores and experiences.
Any other thoughts on this before I ask for a motion?
I guess the final thought would just be, I think everyone on this board supports you, and if there's anything that further that we can do individually to support you in your mission.
Sounds like the town support you too.
Yeah.
You know,
I really
If you
appreciate
look at that
data.
relative to
Yeah.
some other outcomes, boy, wouldn't some schools wish for that kind of response?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I have a motion that would authorize the superintendent director to work with area superintendents and the Agency of Education regarding possible concerns about the potential denial of academic credit for CTE. I hope that's diplomatically worded enough, but it gives Derek what he needs to be able to say that the board is making a statement about this and deputizing him to go forth. Are folks comfortable with that motion? Someone like to make it, please?
I'll make it.
Jess and Sarah. Discussion on that? I appreciate, by the way, Kate is practicing safety first for the seatbelt.
I know I haven't taken it off yet. I do have to turn my camera off and drive to get my child, but I will still be here.
Okay,
Maybe not participating as much.
I understand. We'll hurry up. We'll get this vote done. Any other questions on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Kate, start your engines. All right, policies, Derek. Oh, I'm sorry, Nate.
Yes. So 3 new policies for March. First one is C5 firearms. This updated model policy stayed the same, except for 2 instances of he or she language changed today or removed altogether. C6, home study students. The updated model policy clarifies how home study students may participate in courses, activities, and use school facilities. It adds definitions and administrative responsibilities to align with current VSBA model language while maintaining the same access in intent as the original policy. C7, student attendance has no changes.
Okay, there are 2 others listed.
Oh, sorry. Yep, 2 other VTVLC policies that we're bringing to the table, and I'll let Ashley speak to those.
Oh, sure. I wasn't sure what role I had. So
Do you want me to read them? The first one is VTVLC adjunct teacher relocation outside of Vermont.
So as I was telling Desiree earlier today, that VTVLC has I want to say over 80 adjunct educators. And sometimes they begin with us as they are school teachers here, and then they pursue to go to closer to grandkids, and therefore they move outside of Vermont. And one of the things that we don't have is currently a policy to address when teachers move out. And so we wanted to really think about what does that look like? What would we need to have that happen? Sometimes we find out after the fact, and all of a sudden a teacher has moved to Arizona, and we are scrambling to do paperwork to get them to the appropriate places that we need to do. So as a leadership team, we came forward and said, this is a model that we could look at. Christine made a really great point that is not reflected in this document, which would be what would happen if they move outside of the United States. And that is one thing that we have to look at, and probably there might be a small change from this first reading to the next reading. But we're hoping that this procedure would help us when educators are out of the state. I don't know.
And the next one is the same, it's employee relocation outside of Vermont.
So it's very similar. So we are able to work anywhere, and we do have staff that is all over the United States in some respects, mostly along the East Coast. And so we wanted to make sure that we also had a policy around that as well. So when our staff has decided that they are looking at moving out of the state, what are we doing? And make sure that we have the right paperwork for those changes. And again, we are looking at outside the United States. We are relatively close to Canada, and we do have staff members who have family members that are active military participants, might live outside of this country. And so those are two things that we have not factored into that. So there might be some small changes for the second.
My question is about the adjunct teacher one, and should there be a word about licensure, maintaining licensure in Vermont?
Oh, yeah.
That's the only thing I caught, but that's not enough to, I'm good with moving forward with this being the first reading. That's something you may want to think about.
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns about any of these? Okay, I look for a motion to approve the first reading and to warn the second reading of policies C5, firearms, C6, participation of home study students, C7, student attendance, VTVLC, adjunct teacher relocation outside of Vermont, and VTVLC, employee relocation outside of Vermont. Someone make that motion, please. Des, and seconded by Chris. Any discussion on the motion?
I just have a couple of questions, and maybe it's procedural. You said there was no change to student attendance. Is there an expectation now that on a certain timeline, policies not only have to be reviewed, but have to be reapproved if there's no change to them?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Well, that's easy.
It's a simple answer.
Second one, I
so
wasn't
either-
able to see the VTVLC policy, so I'll ask this question. Maybe it's embedded in there. Is there a requirement that a new hire for VTVLC lives in Vermont?
No. No.
Okay. Then why do we care whether they leave Vermont then? Why do we have a policy about relocation outside of Vermont?
Christine, do you want to get this one?
Yeah, I can speak to that because Chris, there are so many, every state has a whole different set of requirements about their payroll filings and their reportings.
Okay.
Not so much that we're restricting their movement as I think that the policy is more like we want to have notice that you're going to be moving, or we want to at least have the discussion before you up and move. Like we've had a couple of instances in the last year where we found out after the fact that someone moved to another state. And when that happens, that's more money. That costs me TVLC money because then I've got to sit down and go through, I've got to go through all of these regulations for particular maybe to just that state.
Gotcha.
And so that's why it's been more like we need to have a discussion before you move.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts about the first reading of these policies? We have a motion in a second, right?
I'm sorry, can you please tell me who was the motion in the second again?
Who was it? It was Des, and it was, I think, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. There we go. So that passes. Superintendent's report, Derek.
Oh, horticulture and natural resources finished up their game of logging at the North Springfield Flood Control Dam on the 3rd. Carpentry went to Bensonwood Productions in Keene and Walpole on the 5th. BFUHS sophomores visited us here on the 5th as well. On the 14th, the Rads competed in the New Hampshire, Vermont VEX V5 Championship at Manchester Community College in Manchester, New Hampshire. On February 9th, Criminal Justice 2 delivered their scam awareness presentation at the Walpole Town Library. On the 15th, AVP went to Bricks VR Vermont Virtual Escape Room. On the 16th, Infotech went and did another soft opening at VRMont Virtual Escape Room. On February 20th, Advanced Manufacturing and Engineering held a program advisory board for its second time this year. There were more than 15 members present, including new members from Mikros Technology in Claremont and the Thayer School of Engineering at Dartmouth. Chris then went on to present to our staff about how to maintain a robust advisory committee, which is really awesome and was super helpful. I did a bunch of stuff, including Perkins Post-Secondary Collaboration Meeting, VSA legislative meetings. Sugar River Tech Center came and got a tour. VACTED was held, or Beta held VACTED's meeting at their facility, which was pretty cool. And went to the superintendent's monthly meeting with the secretary, which is always interesting. Bunch of other stuff in there, but that's some highlights.
Any questions for Derek?
Where's the Sugar River Tech Center?
Claremont.
Cool. All right, do we have any other business to come before the board? I just want to thank Kate and Jess for participating in this meeting. They are both going to be leading us as their terms have ended on their Sending School Board. So thank you both. We really appreciated having you here. So their boards will reorganize and appoint their replacements that will be with us presumably at the April meeting. But I wanted to acknowledge both of you being with us. So thank you. And thank you for all you've done for RVTC.
Thank you. I've given a plug to the new board to get somebody good for it.
All right, good. Appreciate it.
Same. Yeah, it's very important.
All right, if there's no other business, our next meeting, no kidding, is April 1st. We're adjourned at 5:35. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
To order copies of this program, please call 802-885-6248. This program was created using equipment of SAPA TV. The views and opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily those of SAPA TV or its staff. Visit us online at www.sapatv.org. And as always, thanks for watching.